Ballooning questions about that Chinese spy balloon the military shot down yesterday off the coast of South Carolina. Took a full week for Joe Biden to do something about it. Northcom said they started tracking the balloon last Saturday over Alaska. Then it drifted through the states and over some key military bases. Remember, it was a citizen that spotted it Wednesday in Montana. By the way, Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana is where we keep ICBMs and combat-ready Minuteman missiles. So what's with the delay, and what kind of intel did China get before the military shot down that balloon? These are all questions Republicans want answers to.
I think it's an open question that if this had not become public, if the administration had not briefed this matter to Congress Thursday afternoon after it was about to become public, whether the president would have even shot down the balloon once it got over the Atlantic Ocean.
The world was watching this, just like they were watching the disastrous withdrawal in Afghanistan, where service members, lost their lives and tens of billions of dollars of equipment were left behind. I mean, there's just been a disaster after disaster here, and that's why I think people deserve answers.
Don't fall for the Chinese Communist Party charm offensive. It's a farce. It's a bedtime story they tell out-of-touch global elites at Davos. It's time to push back before it's too late, before something far more dangerous than a balloon is flying over American territory.
Tammy, are you satisfied with any of the answers coming out of this administration, and what questions do you still have?
I have a million questions. I don't think anybody is satisfied. Obviously, even Democrats, there's some rumblings from Democrats about this being a very difficult dynamic, and, they're concerned about it. I mean, if you're an American, you have to be concerned about it. So the questions, though, also go back to not just why did it take a week. One of our guests yesterday noted and implied that there was maybe months. We know that a balloon from China crashed in Hawaii last year of this nature. We know, of course, there's a partnership between North Korea and China. North Korea's gotten very boisterous and blustery once again. So there's serious questions here. But this was really a threefer in a way. It was, yes, you could spy and find out stuff. You could embarrass the United States. You could learn how quickly the president or the government would be able to act and move. And you would then have a better PR in their mind for the world about who is the strong horse in this race. And right now, the strong horses seem to be Russia and China. And that is courtesy of Joe Biden. We saw this. Afghanistan was not noise. It was a signal of everything that was to come. And that is, I think, really represented by this entire debacle.
And not just how quickly the military can move, how quickly the Biden administration is willing to move. Again, this is
well, the military can move very quickly,
right.
But the Biden administration,
a nice
that's the
long
issue.
Week. So during my nice long car ride down today, Lisa Boothe was feverishly texting me about a new narrative that is circulating that basically implies, yeah, this is Donald Trump's fault. Here we go. Trump administration knew about
so
this.
Powerful.
Forbes, yes.
But the most powerful ever.
Chinese spy balloons flew over the U.S. when President Trump was in office, too. Huffington Post suspected Chinese spy balloons crossed into U.S. 3 times during Trump administration. Sunday Express, Republican Party divided as 3 Chinese spy balloons crossed into U.S. during the Trump years. John Ratcliffe, I should say, said, not on my watch. Listen.
It's not true. I can refute it. Former Secretary of Defense Mark Esper refuted it yesterday. Former Secretary of State and CIA Director Mike Pompeo has refuted it.
You're saying there were not 3 spy balloons from China that entered the United States airspace.
I'm telling you that very clearly. Listen, Maria, it's every time something goes wrong in the Biden administration, there's one of 2 responses. They either find a way to blame the Trump administration, or they try and find a way to say the Trump administration did it too.
So, Lisa, by way of review, John Ratcliffe was the former DNI. That stands for Director of National Intelligence. Esper was the former Secretary of Defense. I don't know. You think they'd know if this happened?
Well, and Pompeo, former director of the
Right.
CIA, John Bolton, who hates Trump, said that this didn't happen, right? Yeah. And I think that these allegations that Trump knew that this happened under Trump, I think it's hot air.
Nice.
But the
ballooning.
But the reality is, look, are these the same sources who told us that they droned a Taliban guy and it ended up being a poor aid worker and his family, or the intel people, or the Biden administration who was going to withhold this information from us, the people who lied and weren't going to tell us that Biden had classified documents? We can't trust anything that the Biden administration has to say, and the reality is, this balloon might as well have been shaped as a middle finger. China did this because they could. They knew they could under an administration whose family has taken money from China, who's bought and paid for by China, probably compromised by China. They would not have gotten away with this under the Trump administration. Love him or hate him, he was one of the best foreign policy presidents we've ever had, and he was tough on China.
But Lisa, what about this narrative that, I mean, I guarantee Trump was probably golfing this week and preparing for his 2024 run. Yet there's a segment of our society that is watching other media and reading other media that's going to take away from this that somehow this was Trump's fault, because that narrative always gets pushed during situations like this when it is clearly all on the Biden administration. Trump had nothing to do with this.
Well, let's go through the playbook. I mean, you've got a guy, Biden, whose family's taken money from China. Even Mark Milley, he said that China previously wasn't a threat. He called China behind Trump's back in 2020. These are the people on the Biden administration side. Let's look at Trump, right? This is the guy who sat down with President Xi over a very deliciously moist chocolate cake, as he said, telling him that he was sending 59 Tomahawk missiles to Syria. This is a guy who was tough on China with trade, who wanted to bring manufacturing to the United States. We weren't as reliant on China. And then when he found out that there was a Chinese spy ring at the consulate in Houston, Texas, he said, you have 72 hours to vacate. So the record stands that Trump was tough on China. Biden is not. If anything, he's compromised on this issue.
And I would say, just remember, this is the same establishment where, what was it, 52 intel people
51.
reinforced that the laptop was definitely Russian misinformation. Don't ever forget who it is we're dealing with when it comes to information.
They're
Great
lying
point.
liars.
Obviously, we've been talking a lot about the politics of all this, but there are severe geopolitical implications, and Kurt Lippold, retired Navy commander, lists them out for us. Listen.
When I look at it, we should not have hesitated. This reminds me of kind of that mindset that our country had pre 9/11. We were not appreciating the threat that al-Qaeda represented to our nation. And I think today we do not appreciate the threat that China represents to our national security.
So, David, I know the people on this desk understand the threat that China is. And I know some Democrats are saber-rattling like, we need to do something about China. But on the whole, does our country appreciate the threat that China poses to us?
Well, I think we do, obviously. I think the people in America understand there's some form of threat. The problem are the people in charge in Washington. And I do want to add one thing to the two can't be true story here that's coming with the distraction. HuffPo and all these are unnamed sources. In addition, Mark Esper, K.T. McFarland, others that were there in the administration, Robert O'Brien. So they're not unnamed sources, and we would not have missed that balloon during Trump. If it can be spotted from an airplane by a civilian, it'll be spotted crossing the continental United States. So don't buy that. Now, to the people in charge, does the SecDef not know or know? Is he irresponsible? Go back and look at the geography. Tammy, before the show, you were talking about where are the Aleutian Islands. I always encourage people to look at the geography.
Well, I know where they are, but it's people need to go find that map, and you'll see where it is in relationship with Alaska.
Right, and exactly, to that point, look at what the landmass is, look at the water. If the logic is that we were going to shoot it down over water, then prior to coming in past the chain, it's a chain of islands, they could have shot it down, and they knew about it. The other thing, and it's coming from some of my sources in Washington, D.C., this idea that they found out last Saturday, well, it goes back a few days before that. Balloons don't travel fast. They don't travel at high rates of speed. They are, because it went around Russia, they are navigable. To your point, they are spacecraft in a form, very sophisticated. So this was deliberate, known, and we could see it coming. Frankly, like you could see a hurricane coming. You've got a week's worth of warning.
Also, do we honestly think that Trump would have allowed our country to be debased like this? Of just allowing it to float, to take intel, fly over Air Force bases, nuclear silos, and just be like, oh, we can't do anything about it. No, not for a second. We would have shot it down. We'd have made a big show of it. He would look at people, Americans, in the eye and say, we shot that thing down, you know, to you, China, right? Like,
he'd be tweeting about it, if nothing else.
Yeah, Biden allowed us to be debased. I mean, they got caught with their pants down. He didn't do anything about it.
Trump would have sent that dog that got al-Baghdadi. That dog would have retrieved that balloon in 5 seconds. I know it.
I'm just going to float one thing out here. We don't have time to discuss it, but is there a possibility that maybe certain people in the government knew and didn't inform the power players at the top?
Think no.
Just floating it out there
That's
is a
very
possibility.
dangerous if it is.
And it, again, you're 100% right. That is scary.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.